Middle-class Americans in the 1970s lived completely differently. Not because they had more money or better jobs, but because the entire economic environment supported middle-class prosperity in ways that seem impossible today. In 1970, a middle-class family could afford a house, healthcare, and college education on one income. The average home cost 2.2 times the median income. Today, it costs 7.3 times the median income. This was not because they earned more or spent less. It was because everything about housing, healthcare, and education was fundamentally different. The transformation that followed was not gradual. It was a systematic restructuring of American economics that made middle-class poverty inevitable for most families. Understanding what middle-class life cost in the 1970s reveals exactly how and why everything changed. Let's walk through what middle-class Americans could afford in the 1970s. Let's step into that world. Housing was affordable and accessible. The typical middle-class family saved for 2 years for a down payment, not 20 years. 2 years. Houses were priced for people who worked normal jobs. Teachers could buy houses. Firefighters could buy houses. Factory workers could buy houses. Housing was shelter, not an investment commodity. The median home price was $23,000. The median income was $10,500. The math was simple and achievable. Working families could afford the American dream without financial gymnastics. Mortgages were straightforward and honest. 30-year fixed-rate mortgages were around 7 to 8%. No balloon payments, no adjustable rates, no predatory lending. You qualified based on income, and you paid the same amount every month for 30 years. The mortgage payment was 25% of income, not 45%. Families could budget because the numbers were predictable. Property taxes were reasonable and stable. The average property tax was $400 per year, not $4,000 per year, not $8,000 per year. The tax was based on the home's value as shelter, not as speculative investment. Families could afford to stay in their homes after they bought them. Healthcare was affordable and simple. The typical family paid $300 per year for health insurance, not $18,000 per year. $300. The insurance covered everything. No deductibles, no copays, no networks, no prior authorizations. You got sick, you went to the doctor, insurance paid the bill. Healthcare was healthcare, not a wealth extraction system. Medical costs were transparent and predictable. A doctor visit cost $10. A hospital stay cost $50 per day. Surgery was hundreds of dollars, not hundreds of thousands of dollars. The prices were posted and predictable. Families could afford medical care without insurance. Medical bankruptcy did not exist because medical costs were not at bankrupting levels. Prescription drugs were generic and cheap. Most medications cost under $5. The drugs that existed were developed for medical need, not profit maximization. Pharmaceutical companies made reasonable profits on effective treatments. They did not engineer financial extraction schemes disguised as healthcare. College was affordable for middle-class families. The average college tuition was $1,500 per year. Students could work summer jobs and work part-time during school to pay for college. No loans were required. Parents could afford to send multiple children to college without destroying their retirement. College was education, not a debt creation system. State universities were truly public institutions. Tuition was subsidized by taxpayers who understood that educated citizens benefited everyone. State funding made college accessible to working families. Higher education was a public good, not a private profit center. Room and board was reasonable and included an affordable education. Students lived modestly but comfortably. The college experience was about learning and development, not luxury amenities and resort-style living. The focus was education, not entertainment. Food was affordable and simple. The typical family spent 17% of income on food, not 25%, not 35%, 17%. Food was nutrition, not the entertainment industry. Meals were prepared at home from basic ingredients. Families could afford to eat well without choosing between food and other necessities. Grocery stores were smaller, with fewer processed options. Most food was real food that spoiled quickly and required cooking. The center aisles had basics, not endless varieties of expensive processed products. Shopping was efficient and affordable. Restaurant meals were occasional treats, not daily necessities. Portions were reasonable, and prices were affordable for special occasions. Eating out was a celebration, not a survival strategy for families too busy to cook. Transportation was affordable and simple. Cars were reliable transportation, not status symbols or computer systems. The average car cost $3,500. It ran for 10 to 15 years with basic maintenance. No monthly payments, no extended warranties, no subscription services. Cars were tools that moved you places. Car insurance was minimal and cheap. The average policy cost $150 per year, not $1,500 per year. The insurance covered accidents, not profit centers for financial services companies. Insurance was protection, not a wealth transfer mechanism. Gas was affordable and stable. The price stayed around 30 cents per gallon for most of the decade. Even with the oil crisis spikes, gas remained a minor expense for most families. Transportation costs were predictable and manageable. Childcare was family-based and affordable. Mothers could afford to stay home because one income was sufficient for middle-class life. When childcare was needed, it cost $20 per week, not $20 per day. Extended family and neighbors helped with childcare. It was a community responsibility, not a profit-driven industry. Children's activities were simple and cheap. Little League, Girl Scouts, school sports, and community programs offered low fees and required minimal equipment. Childhood was not an expensive performance requiring constant investment and professional coaching. Education was public and effective. Schools were funded adequately and staffed professionally. Parents did not need to pay for private schools or extensive tutoring to ensure their children received a good education. Public education worked for middle-class families. Retirement was simple and secure. Companies provided pension plans that guaranteed income for life. Social Security provided the foundation for retirement security. The 401k system that would transfer risk to individuals had not been invented yet. Workers could retire with dignity after a lifetime of work. Pensions were real promises, backed by law and regulation. Companies could not abandon their pension obligations or raid pension funds for executive compensation. Workers earned retirement security through decades of service. The promises were kept. Savings were reasonable and achievable. Families saved 12% of their income without struggle. The cost of living allowed families to build wealth while meeting current needs. Savings grew steadily and provided security for emergencies and retirement. What made the difference? Housing was regulated as a necessity, not a commodity. Zoning laws required affordable housing, mortgage lending was conservative and honest, and real estate was not treated as a financialized investment vehicle. Housing policy supported families, not investors. Healthcare was regulated as a public utility. Insurance companies were nonprofit entities focused on spreading risk, not maximizing profit. Medical costs were controlled through regulation and professional ethics. Healthcare served health, not wealth extraction. Education was publicly funded and democratically controlled. Universities were state institutions serving the public good. Student loans were minimal because education costs were controlled. Higher education was an investment in society, not a profit center for administrators and lenders. Labor had power and representation. Unions negotiated wages that kept pace with productivity and the cost of living. Workers had leverage to demand fair compensation. The economy served working families, not only capital owners. Financial regulation prevented predatory lending and speculation. Banks were conservative institutions that served communities. Credit was available for productive purposes, not speculative bubbles. The financial system supported the real economy, not parasitic wealth extraction. Tax policy supported middle-class families. The wealthy paid higher tax rates, and the revenue-funded public services that benefited everyone. Tax policy encouraged productive investment and discouraged speculation. The system was progressive and fair. The transformation that followed was systematic and deliberate. Housing was deregulated and financialized. Real estate became an investment commodity traded by speculators. Mortgage lending became a predatory profit center. Housing policy served capital, not families. Healthcare became a profit maximization system. Insurance companies became for-profit entities focused on denying claims and limiting coverage. Medical costs exploded as profit extraction became the primary focus. Healthcare served wealth, not health. Education funding was cut and privatized. Universities became profit centers charging whatever the market would bear. Student loans became a debt creation industry. Higher education became a wealth extraction system disguised as opportunity. Labor power was systematically destroyed. Unions were attacked and weakened. Wages were disconnected from productivity gains. Workers lost leverage to demand fair compensation. The economy served capital owners, not working families. Financial deregulation enabled predatory lending and speculation. Banks became profit maximization entities focused on fee extraction and risk creation. Credit became a debt trap industry. The financial system extracted wealth from the productive economy. Tax policy was reversed to benefit the wealthy. The rich paid lower rates, while public services were defunded. Tax policy encouraged speculation and discouraged productive investment. The system became regressive and unfair. The results were predictable and devastating. Housing costs exploded as speculation replaced regulation. Healthcare costs exploded as profit replaced service. Education costs exploded as debt creation replaced public funding. Middle-class families were systematically impoverished by changes designed to enrich capital owners at the expense of working people. The impoverishment was not accidental. It was engineered and implemented through deliberate policy changes. The middle-class families of today are not failing. The system is failing them. The economic environment that supported middle-class prosperity was deliberately dismantled and replaced with a wealth extraction system. Individual solutions cannot solve systematic problems. Budget discipline cannot overcome housing costs that consume 50% of income. Personal responsibility cannot overcome healthcare costs that destroy families despite insurance. Hard work cannot overcome wage stagnation and cost inflation. The solutions are systematic and political. Housing policy must prioritize families over investors. Healthcare policy must prioritize health over profit. Education policy must prioritize opportunity over debt creation. Labor policy must restore worker power and fair compensation. Financial regulation must prevent predatory lending and speculation. Tax policy must fund public services and discourage wealth hoarding. The middle-class life of the 1970s was not accident or anomaly. It was the result of policy choices that prioritized working families over capital accumulation. Those policies can be restored and improved. For people who lived through the transformation, the contrast is obvious. Life was different, costs were different, possibilities were different. Everything that affects middle-class prosperity was different. The 1970s economic environment produced middle-class prosperity naturally. The environment that followed produced middle-class poverty inevitably. The difference was not personal. It was systematic. For those who remember middle-class life in the 1970s, the memories are of security and possibility. Reasonable costs that families could afford, wages that supported a comfortable life, futures that children could expect to improve upon. The lesson is clear. Middle-class Americans are not poor because they are irresponsible. They are struggling because the system was changed to make middle-class poverty inevitable. Americans were not more prosperous in the 1970s because they tried harder. They were prosperous because trying was not necessary. The economic system did the work automatically.